Descent into Darkness, a Call of Cthulhu campaign. Hello and welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness Season 4. This is Episode 9, and I am Keeper Travis. And today we will return to Cairo and Mr. Stanton, but before we get back to that, let's get an introduction from our players and their investigators.
I'm Brandon. I'll be playing Bartholomew Wentworth. I'm currently sitting in an Arctic wasteland, but Bartholomew is in the arid regions of Turkey somewhere, heading to Cairo.
At least our surfaces are going to be running nice and cool. I'm Chris. I'm playing Charles Stanton, big game hunter and expedition guide, and I am currently about to meet up with Elias. Was that his name? Jackson?
Yeah, Jackson Elias.
Yeah.
And I'm John playing Joseph Thompson, and I'm on my way to I was on my way to the end of this train trip, hopefully.
One day. All right, so it's Saturday, February 18th. I believe we left off around noon as you were having lunch down in the restaurant within the Hotel Shepherd where you are staying. And you had just spotted Jackson Elias, a familiar face from your previous expedition to Peru, where you dealt with fat-sucking vampires and an ancient deity in a pyramid. But Jackson Elias is a black man in his 40s, of average height and build, with short hair and a habitual grin. He wears tweed suits, except when impractical, for example, when you were traveling into the Peruvian highlands, and usually sports a fedora hat. He smokes a pipe and often gestures with it to emphasize points when talking, you recall. At first glance, he does look like a match for any academic sort you have seen, but the tweed suits hide a thin, muscular frame, and his hands are rough and calloused, as he enjoys being out in the field more than writing, or so you have learned.
I seem to remember that we got along decently. Oh.
Yeah, he liked your take on things because he felt for somebody who was from the other side of the Atlantic, you had an American sensibilities about handling problems, i.e. shooting them. And he kind of liked that.
The more the better.
Yeah, so I'll
But when he saw you, he got up from his place at the bar and he weaves his way over to the table you were sitting at with Francesco. Well, Francesco is standing near you, ready to attend to your every whim.
Yeah, so I'll stand up as he gets near and offer my hand.
It's like, Mr. Stanton, good to see you.
Mr. Elias, right, if I recall correctly?
Yeah, it's a little backstory. When we left off from that initial season 1, the Peruvian expedition, in the investigator development phase, he is a voracious reader and writer, so he writes lots of letters, and he sent them off to each of you, and I cannot remember, because I made a note, but I have since lost that note, about how you guys would respond to being like basically a pen pal in the intervening time. But in the time you haven't seen him, he's written you a letter. You either responded or not. I'll get your answer in a second. But he also sent you the nearly finished manuscript based on your guys' expedition because he wanted basically you to say yes or no to anything that you didn't want to appear in there.
Yeah, and Stanton being egomaniac, I guess, for lack of a better word, would have read anything involving him. I think ultimately he is more amused at other people's take on him, so he probably wouldn't really say no to anything on that.
Well, the only thing that you noticed, or the main thing that you noticed from this manuscript, is that he didn't get Whitmire sleazy enough in your estimation. His intentions, he kind of smoothed out that bit and also really left it up to the reader to come to their own conclusions about if these fat-sucking vampires were actually some thing or just the
It's
appearance?
really sad that in a story about fat-sucking vampires that Whitmire was the grossest, dirtiest thing around there.
Well, you were doing creepy things with my...
Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a worshiper or not, but
I understand.
in the end, Greed won out, and
He didn't
we know how
particularly
that went.
say anything bad about Whitmire, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Your character
Just
should have
made him
been
a
on
creeper.
full display. Not even a creeper. It's just that you weren't. There was no indication that you were an unsavory character, duplicitous and up to no good.
Well, I think
you're-
my first act there was like breaking into the hotel room of our employer's go-between or something and stealing something.
And at that time,
Stealing the
Stanton
mask,
was
yeah.
very paranoid in his hotel room, just watching through the peephole as you were
Yeah.
going around. So anyhow, yeah. So what did you keep up letters with him? Because obviously he would stop writing after the first one would go unanswered or something like that.
Yeah, I actually, he's a well-traveled man,
Yeah.
and I see that as a potential business opportunity at the very least, but he also was fairly friendly and not, what's the word I'm looking for? Not too quick to jump to like a negative judgment on
Right.
just blasting first and asking questions later, so.
Yeah, practical thinker. You know, you would expect an author to have their head in the clouds with high-minded ideals, but you know his focus was on the study of death cults, so he had done that primarily in India, Africa, and South America.
And that's always a good person to have in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Is various people of tribal knowledges, death cults,
Right.
stuff like that is a good thing. So that way you can ask them.
So from your letters, you know that he had opted to stay in Peru after everyone had left to sort of ensure that the Karisiri were actually gone post what you had done in that pyramid. And according to the letters you kept up with him, this appeared to be the case. Whatever had been done at the pyramid seemed to have ended the problem of fat-sucking vampires. Once Jackson had his assurances, he traveled to Kenya, stating in his letters that he wanted to learn more about the main expedition benefactor and leader, Augustus Larkin. But you hadn't heard what he'd been up to recently. Because if you recall, Augustus Larkin you had identified the sound of his accent being from Kenya, probably.
No.
But anyhow, yeah, so you're shaking hands, and he's like, "Oh, I won't bother you for too long. I'm just didn't expect to see you here. What are you doing here, Mr. Stanton? Not meaning to pry, but I'm on my way home myself, but
Well, please sit.
oh, thank you. Can I buy you a drink?"
Absolutely. And perhaps I can entertain you with a meal and some stories. That way I don't have to talk to this. So that way I don't have to talk to the boy all evening.
How you doing, kid?
Don't speak to him.
Okay, you got passing the skills on to a new generation, huh?
Well, caught for thieving. Figured we might as well put him to work.
Yeah, those kids can be handy if they don't steal you blind, that is.
And to answer your question, Mr. Elias, I'm on my way into the empty quarter at the behest of Dr. Andrews.
Working for Mr. Andrews. How's the good doctor doing?
I don't know personally. He sent one of his lackeys, Mr. Wentworth, to facilitate my expertise.
He's got lackeys?
Apparently now, he must have made out better in Peru than you or I, Mr. Elias.
I don't know how he managed that. We both made out pretty good as far as I know, but interesting fellow there. I heard about Mr. Monroe. I'm sorry to hear that.
You probably are the only one. I suspect much of, where is it he was from?
Boston, I think.
I suspect much of Boston is probably singing the praises that the Reaper came for him, and he didn't talk that poor guy to death. Didn't talk the Reaper to death as well.
You flip the page idly on your menu and one of his flyers falls out. Got the flyer joke in. Yeah, what about Whitmire?
I was keeping tabs on him for a while after we went our separate ways. There was something that Mr. Merriweather wished for me to procure, and it had gone missing. Now, I suspected it was him or Monroe, but Monroe's gone, so that puts him out of the running. And as for Whitmire, I think he... do I know anything about Whitmire? Probably
well,
not.
you had as far as I know, you are still paying private
Okay.
eye service to keep an eye. Watch Whitmire caught wind of it, and he has Andrews and Whitmire's private eye service watching
Watching
himself.
the Watcher.
But no, you had paid. So you had learned a bunch about him, that he had some sort of enterprise, not necessarily on the up and up, primarily based in New York.
And then last I heard, he wound up in a ICU.
Yeah.
Last I heard, he wound up in an emergency room. Got shot.
Another character that my Soul inhabits was able to put the bullet where I wanted to put it originally. Right? Because what's his name?
Yeah,
Glover.
I'd like to thank the man personally, whoever he would be, but...
Well, if I didn't know any better, it sounded like we got one of those curses you get when you go into a pyramid you're not supposed to go, the way things are going for
absent-mindedly,
a little party up there.
Stanton will grab the pouch, the leather pouch around his neck. Curses are for the weak, Mr. Elias.
Oh, I agree. I've been to a lot of places where I was supposed to have died or fallen under some tribe's curse or another, but I'm still going, so...
That's why I like you. You're cut from a better cloth than the rest of your Yanks over in your continent. And I'll hold up a glass.
Yep, he'll hold his up. Cheers.
Let's see, what should we toast to? To being cut from better cloth, perhaps.
From a better cloth. Yeah, well, I've been in Kenya the last couple months, but now I got to go home and do my dues for the publishers.
Do I have any opinions on Kenya?
I don't know. What do you think of it?
I don't know what's going on.
Well, he said, he had gone there to look into Augustus Larkin. He'll say, well, I didn't find anything. I wrote to you about it the last time. As far as I can tell, he was just a silver spoon kid. He got cut off from his family's wealth and his family in general. But that does beg the question, because that occurred well before we met him in the bar Cordano down in Lima. So I'm just kind of curious where he even had the money to begin with to go in that much on that expedition.
That said, I was more hoping for like the current state of Kenya.
Oh, Kenya?
But if it's like war torn in any fashion,
yeah.
Stanton's stance will be lovely country, especially this time of year.
Well, I stayed mostly in places that were okay. I wasn't looking into any cults during that one, just trying to follow up on Augustus Larkin, but it was a dead end, I'm sorry to say.
Yes, another man I should have put a bullet into when I had the chance. I hopefully won't regret it.
Yeah, well, he's gone completely missing as far as I've heard. But anyhow, question for another day. I was sort of curious about any of those artifacts we got out of there. Maybe I was planning to link up with Monroe and take a look at some of them, because I wonder if he was going after something in particular.
I think he doesn't have much of a thought in his head, much beyond his academics. But much of what we were able to procure, I made sure Merriweather got the choice pick, from what I was able to carry out anyway. But he's dead now as well.
Yeah, I had heard. I didn't know him well.
Now, there's another notch for your curse.
Except he didn't go in the pyramids, so I wonder what cursed him.
Well, doesn't that...
Wait, is there a common denominator here between these things that keep dying? Is it Chris? Yeah. He doesn't have any.
But doesn't those curses usually also extend to any ill-gotten gains?
Yeah, that is true. That is a common thing. It would have passed from us to him when we handed it over. Maybe there's something to it. We'll see. I'm bound for New York. Got to do the book tour thing. That's not my ideal situation. I think you and I have that in common. You don't really look quite at home here, if I'm being honest. So anyhow, sorry. Enough about me. The empty quarter, huh? Arabian Peninsula. I've heard of a few interesting practices there from the ones who have kept their pagan traditions.
I've been up to my eyeballs in nothing but Bedouin this and tradition that and map this and sea level that. Been breaking away for it. But yes, there are a good many traditions, and thankfully I'm not the one that's going to have to remember them all.
Well, it'd be tempting to ask if I could join you, but I don't know if I can wiggle any more time away from the publishers. They'll probably try to renegotiate on me. They're already taking me for everything I'm worth.
Well, that's the fun thing about the empty quarter, Mr. Elias. You disappear from the view, the scrutiny of the publishers, and if it goes sideways, you don't have to worry about them again.
That's true.
That said, you also won't have to ask. A position will be open to you. Documentation of this is something that should always happen. We're going after a fabled lost city, if that piques your interest.
That does pique my interest.
Many have died while seeking it out. In fact, it's merely a madman's ravings that point us in the direction.
Oh, goodness. This is right up my alley. What skill do you think Stanton relies on when he's doing something like that?
Spinning a tale?
Yeah, like...
I think it's either intimidation or navigation, like just kind of like painting a picture of the land.
Yeah, so go ahead and do the navigation for me. We'll say we'll need a hard to sway him from his duties at home. Got it.
Oh, nice.
Bedouin tribes out for blood. I'm bringing a good number of men this time as well, armed to the teeth. I also hear that Mr. Wentworth has also picked up a rather odd bunch as well on his way here.
Well, I'm the one who writes the damn books now, aren't I? I suppose publishers can wait a little bit longer. If you'll have me, I'll be happy to come, Mr. Stanton.
Like I said, we currently have an entire, oil expedition?
Yeah.
We have an entire oil expedition team picked up as well, so I figure one more man and a bunch of camels that you will probably be eating towards the end isn't going to hurt.
I don't mind that. Well, good. I mean, when are we starting this whole thing then?
The day after tomorrow, I believe they should be here.
All right. Well, I already booked my room for the night. I'll just have them extended out a few days, and
I'm staying at the. Give the name of the hotel I'm staying at because I can't remember.
Yeah, you're in it. You're in the restaurant that's in it.
Oh, yeah.
He is too. He's like, well, same here. So
I guess I'll instead give my room number.
okay. And he's like, oh, sweet. Oh, I'm just down here in the. I'm still frugal after all these years.
Was Mr. Vanya with me? I can't remember.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I chose this place because apparently a bunch of escaping oligarchs, is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Escaping Russian oligarchs are currently here as well. Perhaps you could keep your eyes and ears open. That said, I'd warn you about Russians.
I haven't had much dealings with them. What do I need to know?
Well, I would always just count my fingers. Worse than any Cairo cut purse.
All right, so the conversation continues on to more...
Or Italian cut purse.
with a sidelong glance for Francesco.
Who, me? With Francesco, I'll give him a period of time in which he's supposed to attend to me and the guest.
Yeah.
And then after that, all right, boy, sit down, take your lunch or your dinner, whatever we're...
Right. Yeah. So the lunch comes and you guys eat, and the conversation turns to more practical concerns about the upcoming expedition. Unfortunately, in this case, Jackson only has a generalized knowledge about like tribal things and whatnot. He's not much for, what do you call it? He's never been to the Arabian Peninsula except passing through on his way to India.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Also good country. It's where I met my wife.
Oh. Perhaps I'll have to visit you at your home. You can introduce us.
My house is yours.
All right. Well, if we make it through this one.
Even if we don't, if you somehow do, you're always welcome to call upon my sons if you wish to see the house. They know of you, my sons, my daughter. They've read your letters.
All right. So during the course of your lunch, Ibrahim finds you with you can see the worried expression on his face. And he's like, bad news, boss.
Yeah, I'll kind of lean back so he can like do the lean over and whisper in the ear type of thing.
He's like, he tells you that Matvey collapsed unconscious. He's already had the men taking him to a nearby hospital.
Apparently that Russian wasn't as hard-headed as I thought he would be. Any ideas? Possible concussion? Do we even know what a concussion is in this period of time?
Well, I mean, you would know people taking knocks to the head. Sometimes that happens, but it's not usually a good thing.
What's a slang like? Yeah, like yeah,
punch drunk or something.
Yeah, has he perhaps become punch drunk, Ibrahim?
I think I think Ray went up his head a little bit harder than we expected.
All right.
Yeah. In letter of the law with him, it didn't harm his shooting finger, though. But I had the men took him, here, let me get that Cairo map up. So I put a little pin on there. He took him to the Anglo-American hospital. He figured that might be the best for him, but I don't know how things are going. I just thought you should know.
Irish and Russians, both of them should be just sunk into the sea. Thank you, Ibrahim. Mr. Elias, I'm sure I've told you about him at some point in the past. Mr. Elias, this is my second Ibrahim. No more loyal or trustworthy man, as well as a hard fighter you could hope to find in these lands.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, so he goes off to attend to it further, and you carry on with your lunch, which does come to an end, and Mr. Elias says, well, I suppose I ought to get some telegrams off to the publishers. They're not going to be happy about this one.
A worried look comes across Stanton's face, because he knows that he's going to have to go back to spreadsheets and books.
Right. Please.
Very well, Mr. Elias. I guess I must return to my own work. I'll pay the tab for Elias as well. All right, Francesco, let us return to the room.
Okay, so yeah, you do return to your suite and your books and maps and the well-trod route to Alafan, which you've kind of gone over in sections completely. And now you just have, the big problem, the Rub al-Khali, but your mind is other places. And Ibrahim comes back and he explains the situation. Boss, he is not being seen at the hospital. They have too many people there that need to be seen. There's been some unrest lately, so there's been a lot of attacks in the streets on people. So he's describing there's like an influx of patients basically, and they took a look at him and they put him in the room. So he's still unconscious when I left.
Well, the thing with unrest is that there's always someone looking to make a dime. Surely we can find some. Do I even want to waste it on some Russian? Oh.
Well, it might not look good for his father if you kill him before we leave.
We just transport the body into the empty quarter and we leave it there till he died in the desert.
However you want to do it, boss.
Very well, Ibrahim. Take some money, pass it around, see if you can find someone who's willing to grease some wheels, as the Yanks say.
Okay.
At least I think it's the Yanks. It could be the English. Who knows about
All right, so we'll leave that day there then with Ibrahim to try to solve that situation and move on to February 19th, Sunday, unless there was anything you wanted to do, Chris, with the rest of your evening.
No, it's basically going to sit on that balcony, listen to horrible jazz, pretend I'm not beginning to like it.
Right.
And smoke cheroots and drink whiskey or whatever they got here. Some sort of spirit.
All right, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth aboard the Taurus Express. Shortly after crossing the bridge, that the train reaches the station at Yenis. You have been traveling for over 24 hours since you left Haidar Pasa. Yenis is the junction for the railway line to Murcina. Your next stop is Adana, a busy and important commercial center on the banks of the river Shihun, which you cross on a steel girder bridge about 1,000 feet long. So that's kind of where you are at the moment, crossing this bridge, looking out the window. At Adana, the Turkish state railways come to an end, and you transfer to the French line again, which is entering Syria, or the French Syria as it's called now. And you will travel there as far as Aleppo. And you're expected to stop in Tripoli on the Mediterranean where the line ends, and tomorrow your luggage will be transferred to a motor coach, which will take you to Beirut and Haifa, which is there on the Mediterranean. So early on that whole train journey, you have a tap at the door, which is Nigel Stedford inviting you in particular, Mr. Wentworth, to breakfast. But Mr. Thompson is welcome to join if he wishes.
Okay. Stuff froze up, so I won't be able to roll for a minute, but
Okay.
But yeah, he wants to go to where?
To the dining car for breakfast.
Okay, yeah. Yes, did you want to go, Mr. Thompson? Let's get some breakfast.
Well, he is in the toilet at the moment, so you can't even ask him.
Okay, yeah.
And so you go off to
Got
breakfast.
train sickness.
Nigel's after his seasickness. I can't have any kind of motion. So, yeah, you sit down, you guys order your breakfast, and, he makes some idle small talk to begin with. But then he gets around to what you think might be what he wants to talk to you about, which is who is... Well, Mr. Wentworth, are you well trained in these matters, the expeditions and that sort of thing?
Well, yes, I am. Although this will be a new challenge for me. I've never been in a desert quite like this, but I have spent most of my career fighting in the desert.
I see. So have you hired outside help as it is?
Yeah, I've hired an expert.
And who have you gone through?
It's a man named Charles Stanton.
Chris, you can make a credit rating roll. We'll see if he's heard of you. Ah, yes, Stanton Inc. I have a good reputation.
Expeditions.
Yes, in the circles I deal in. I've heard much about them, that favorable. So that is good. But a question I have for you, Mr. Wentworth, is have you given much thought to your impending meeting with royalty? Speaking of Imam Yahya, of course. As you are the top man, you will be the face of the expedition. Bakshish is paid to all, from the lowliest herdsmen to the kings of Yemen. Kings have much larger appetites than herdsmen, or so I have heard. So that's my question for you.
No, I had not considered it.
Well, I wouldn't expect you to necessarily, but it will be, I think, perhaps a major hurdle when we are actually in Yemen.
So what do you advise?
Well, I know very little of the man, because in my time there, he was not the king of Yemen. Yahya's father was the imam of the Zadis, who claimed rule over all of Yemen based on a lineage from the Al-Qasimi dynasty. They're supposed to have ruled those lands for 900 years. Of course, the Ottomans did not see things the same, and the Zadis were relegated to the northern mountains. But now they're gone, and you must deal with a monarch who traces his lineage to the Prophet himself. I do not envy your position. But my thinking is, a man who's newly made king needs legitimacy in the international world. What do you think you could offer him in that avenue, do you think?
I'm at a loss, to be honest.
No connections in the State Department back in America?
No, I have few connections, honestly. And nothing on the level that it sounds like this person would feel entitled to.
Well, I could be overselling it. I think they are teachers and holy men first, and kings would be a secondary thing. So it might even be more complicated than just a king, but certainly a practical concern of his would be the legitimacy of his new rule. Of course, he would make the claim of 900 years, but will the French or the British or the Americans honor that? Likely not,
Right.
But you have lots of money to put on this expedition. I know Lord Stourton is wealthy, but certainly he's not covering the whole thing.
That's true. Would money answer this question?
Possibly, but if, whoever, and I don't mean to pry into where the funding for this is coming from, but whoever is doing it, certainly with that much money, they must know somebody that might be able to make inroads on behalf of the Yemen people and their new king.
Well, perhaps I can send a message to him and see if he can help.
Well, that could go a long way if we know about what kind of promises we can make before we have to pay our bakshish to the king of Yemen. Another thing of note is you and me and any other European will be seen as Christian in their eyes. I wouldn't put too fine a point on it when you meet this man or others. We're as much as what others perceive us to be as we are what we think we are. Furthermore, the Muslims, in my experience, have a way of dealing with Christians that I don't fully understand, but does seem hospitable, all told, provided we come in peace. Beyond that, most of what you'll be dealing with are the Bedou, and they're much more complicated. On our first attempt, they captured us and the other Europeans in our outfit and held us ransom for 3 weeks. Luckily, it was paid. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here having breakfast with you.
Right.
But whether they'll want to trade with you or capture you or just raid you, who but the Bedouin can say. They can be the heart of hospitality, though. For being captives for 3 weeks, they treated us like guests. So another thing to concern yourself with, not to darken your day, Mr. Wentworth. But...
Well, yeah, hopefully we don't have that same issue. Okay, well, why don't I send a message to my benefactor and see what ways he might be able to assist us with this particular issue when we meet this king.
So, anyhow, the conversation turns to matters of desert survival with a successful psychology roll, which I guess you can't do. I can do it if you'd like me to. Give me a minute to pull up your character. What do you got? Psychology at 20?
Yeah.
No. So this seems like him trying to find a common, shared interest in, how to move in the desert and survive off the land with meager resources. But he asks you a bunch of questions. So also, I can take a desert survival roll to impress him, which you're very skilled in. Nice 80 there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. So yeah, the conversation is pretty friendly by the end of it because he's asked very specific questions that only somebody with that experience would be able to answer, And him being able to ask those specific questions clues you into the fact that he also is knowledgeable about that, so that he's not just a blowhard or somebody who's there by, the privilege of his, line in Britain. He's actually a working man in that regard where he knows his stuff. So you both kind of come away from that conversation with a favorable opinion.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Thompson, are you back? So you're still learning this spell, the Armor of the Wills. This is day 2 of your attempt to commit the casting of it to memory and to understand all the ins and outs. So you can pass a history, occult, astrology, or hard education roll to glean some more information.
Look through to see which one. You said history, occult, astrology, or hard education?
Yeah.
That be... Can I use luck?
Yes.
All right, I'll use the 8 luck to make it a hard.
Okay, so you learn through this glance at everything pertaining to the spell that Ibon claims that this spell is best cast on the day of Kronos, and you just remember from your standard education, university education, that Kronos, the day of Kronos is Saturday. It's just what the Greeks would have called it. So he makes the claim that it's best used. It can be used on any day of the week, but it's best used on the day of Kronos. Claims that absorbing harm is impossible. That's not what the spell does. That instead, by invoking the key and the gate, which is part of the chant that you've been learning, harm is deflected, ideally to phases above and below, is the language he uses. Glimpses of how this harm is deflected are damaging to the mortal mind, he claims. He relates the story of an ancient sultan who misunderstood the use of this spell and directed the damage from an assassin's blade into the women of his harem instead of to the phases above and below.
I'm still reeling over the fact that someone only needs protection on a Saturday.
No, he just said it's
I know.
Best, right?
It's best, yeah. Well, that's the best day to need protection, I guess.
Well, this idea of Kronos and the key and the gate are bound together. You don't think he's talking about the same deity when he mentions them, but the Kronos deity would be like a facsimile of a true ancient being that he refers to as the key and the gate that has some sovereignty over like time, but that's not even really it, because it's more about this language where he's talking about the different phases of things. So for whatever reason, Saturday is that day that it's most aligned with the key and the gate.
Okay.
And I added the spell to your character sheet, so any of these notes that you glean, you can add there to aid you in casting. That's what you get covered for that day of reading, and most of it's, you're just trying to sort through what exactly he's alluding to, and it took you a bit of thinking to remember who Kronos was. I think he was a Greek god, if I'm not mistaken, and to remember that association with Saturday. Yeah, Greek god. So a lot of the
Okay.
Greek and the Roman versions, like you learned about them all in your standard university education. Okay. So aboard the train, you guys, again, don't have much to do, but if there's something you want to do, you can send off telegrams, but they are kind of held until the train stops at a station, and then they're passed over there at the station and then sent over the wires back to Dr. Andrews.
Yeah, I'll get that one ready.
Okay. So we can jump back over to Mr. Stanton in Cairo again, February 19th.
All right.
So you got a fresh eye, a new day. Some of the old problems creep up earlier and earlier by just the repetition, but there you are. There's no...
I think we're probably a day away from him just sitting up there with his gun.
Right. Well, there's no other part of this expedition you can look at from your expertise, but now to focus on the empty corridor. If the Arabian Peninsula is God's hammer, then the Rub al Khali would be his anvil. You have since learned from Mr. Wentworth that Mr. Stedford has gone 4 days into the corridor with no sign of the city about 20 years ago. So, and from your estimations that 4 or 5 days is the length of time you'll be able to go on camels. If you go past that, you'll all die there. Let's see here. So you can make a survival desert roll for me.
I do not have desert, I believe. I might not have survival at all. That's for other men. I'm just
I thought you had it. I was pretty sure you did. I don't think when we first had it, we put anything on, and I went ahead and made it desert for you.
Oh, it is 40. Okay. I'll spend 8.
Okay. So, the main thing here is keeping everyone hydrated and sheltered from the heat. Water requirements will triple in the empty quarter by your experience in other deserts. Hats and head coverings and loose-fitting clothes that cover the skin will avoid sunburn, because once that happens and you're out in the desert, there's very little you can do to relieve it, especially while traveling. Shelters and windbreaks can help provide relief during rests. Heat conduction from the desert surface will need some consideration. So this is where your expertise comes into play, because people don't often think about the ground, because that thing bakes all day, so it never really loses much heat. So keeping your group off of the ground goes a long way to keeping you...
So like slightly elevated cots and stuff like that? Airy tents. Open.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That some of this could be avoided by traveling at night, but that approach limits visibility. And since you're looking for something, you don't know where it is, it might be out of the equation. 2 techniques for finding water in a desert. One is digging where there's plants. The other is following animals. So if it gets hard enough, you're kind of thinking about that. So, maybe knowing ahead of time what animals are in that desert, if any, will be helpful if you have to come to that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'll see if I can use this whole library skill of mine and see if I can find any of the fauna, I believe.
Yeah.
No.
You can also rely on hard natural world or hard survival. Does that pass any of those?
No, not even close, especially not hard.
The hard is because it's a region that you don't have first-hand experience in.
Okay.
So, but you're certain there will be rodents probably, but you don't know the specific ones.
Yeah, I'll be kind of musing out loud too as I flip through endless supply of books that yield nothing to Francesco.
Useless.
Yeah, I'll be like, worst comes to worst, we'll be drinking our own urine by the end of the...
Right.
And that's only good for so many times, Francesco. Soon it just yields poison.
Why would we drink our urine?
Well, 3 days without water in that heat, you'll be looking for any sort of water source. And I'll start, you stop sweating. You begin, your kidneys begin to shut down. And the thirst is unending.
Like, no.
You would turn over a damp stone and lick the bottom of it if you could find one.
Well, not me. You won't catch me drinking pee.
3 days in that desert, Francesco?
In this case, he holds his ground. He's insistent that he will survive in some other fashion.
I look forward to seeing it then. Hopefully, though, it won't come to that. That's what this boring, laborious, tedious exercise and torture is all about, is making sure we don't have to drink our own urine.
So you hear in the streets the sound of a demonstration like coming through the streets, right? Like you've had the normal things that are faded to the background that you had to reacclimate to, like the calls to prayer, which you weren't used to hearing back home, right? As much anyways. But this is a new one. So just an idle glance out your window sees a large group of men, young men mostly, parading down the street with, holding placards and signs and stuff in Arabic. So you don't really read what they say, but they do chant something in English every now and then, which is just British go home, right? So, so it looks peaceful at the moment. So,
that's a right mob for the making down there, Francesco.
So Ibrahim makes his visit, and he says, "There's a doctor who will help, but he has a condition, and money didn't seem to be what he was looking for."
What's his condition, Ibrahim? Spit it out, man.
He seemed to know that I was going on an expedition soon, and he wanted to join it. Do you want to meet with him? I told him it was out of my say.
I need that damned Russian back on his feet, or otherwise he'll be completely useless. I'll throw him in the sea. So yes, arrange a meeting. We can either have it down in the restaurant, or he can come to the room. I don't care which. But I'll look over the balcony again, see how that protest or the potential mob is going.
Yeah, they're passing down this road that encircles Ezbekia Park. So it's a long, long road. They've passed past the Shepherd Hotel now, and they're going past the face of other restaurants and cafes.
Well, looks like unless they decide to turn around, we might be all right on that. So yes, he can come visit me here, but I want the Russian checked out as soon as possible.
Well, he's at the hospital now. Did you want to go there, or do you want me to send him here?
I'll look exasperated, but a fleeting look will go to the pages in front of me. Damn it, Ibrahim. Fine, we'll go to the hospital. Give me a moment to get ready, and I'll, I'm figuring I'm already dressed, which would almost be like a sub-formal or formal occasion.
Right.
Just because that's how Stanton is, but I'll put on my gun and my hat and my cane. All right.
Okay. So, yeah, you guys get ready to go, and a tram can be found to run you. It's actually in a little island in the middle of the Nile River in a district called Gezira, where this Anglo-American hospital is. But on your way to the tram, while you've passed, the demonstrations moved on, go and give me a spot hidden. How'd you do? I didn't look.
Success.
Nice. So you see a group of 3 young men. You would think they would be college students, right? University students. Locals are standing there around a corner peeking out at you, and one of them has a pie in his hands, and they seem to be like watching you in particular.
I don't want to I need a sawed off is what I need. So that way I have the skill. Can I do a navigate to kind of start maybe cutting through? Try to avoid them, and also avoid any super dangerous back streets.
Yeah, as you ask Ibrahim if there's a way to catch a different tram or come at it from a different angle.
Okay.
Or where exactly it's at, and then you can do your navigate. Yeah. So you find a way to circle these ne'er-do-well university students.
I'll kind of like give Ibrahim a slight shake of my head and point with my cane.
Yeah, so you suspect, because it's become kind of a thing to do, if you go back 10 years, they would throw bombs at people they didn't like, but the pie in the face took off after a particular movie came out in the Americas like 10 years ago. And so now that has become like a non-violent way of, protesting people you see as...
Well, it would have a very violent response. And I don't feel like starting a riot in the middle, right before we're about to set off. But
yeah, you find a way to cut to where this tram goes. It does take you through that bazaar area that you overlooked.
Okay.
So... which had kind of a partial red light district. So you see the women out there, and they're propositioning you in Arabic, but you can skirt by them without being molested further. And you make it to this tram that takes you to the Anglo-American hospital. And there inside, you can see that they have people waiting, in the lobby. They have people sitting in cots in the hallways. And it's a lot of, like, minor wounds, like attacks from, people in the city, like random violence that's been occurring. But Matt Vey did get a room to himself, finally. And so he's resting in that. And it's just a dim room. But therein is a man, wearing doctor's clothes, at least appropriate for the area. Just a sec here. And he's sitting in a chair that's kind of at the foot of the bed that Matt Vey rests in. So yeah, he looks like that. There's a gentleman sitting there, and he looks at you expectantly when you come in with Ibrahim, and he stands up, and you can see around his neck is a symbol that you've seen before in Alexandria, the Coptic cross, tattooed on a dragoman. But in this case, he's wearing, like, the symbol of it around his neck, and he stands up,
Charles,
just awaiting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll walk over, extend my hand.
Right.
Charles Stanton, I'm this man's employer.
I see. He says, "My name is Bahram Ibn Salah. As I understand it, you are in need of a doctor."
How exactly did you come about that knowledge, Mr. Ibn Salah? Did I say that name right?
Yeah, Ibn's like son of, which I think you would probably know. So Salah would be like the thing you might say.
Okay, so
Mr.
Mr. Salah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made it no secret, but does word really travel so far and wide here in, where are we, Cairo?
Yeah. Well, we have two ways we can handle this, Mr. Stanton. We can keep it vague and say I did in fact hear about your expedition, doctor by trade, but an astrologist as a hobby, and that area interests me. Or, if you want the truth, I can tell you that too. The person who told me said you are a man who values the truth.
Well, they would not have lied. I do indeed value the truth.
You see, your man being here and your expedition, knowledge of this was transmitted in a dream, Mr. Stanton. I had a dream of you walking into the desert. I can verify that now that I've seen you. You see, we Christians believe that Jesus will return from the east. He gestures off to the east. And an angel told me to come here at this moment and this time, and he gave me precise instructions to wait at this hospital until now. So what do you think? Should we have kept it vague?
I've seen far odder things than dreams that are prophetic, Mr. I forget his name all of a sudden.
Salah.
Mr. Salah. Perhaps keep it vague from the other men, though. Superstitious lot. Yeah. And I'll absent-mindedly play with the leather bag of bones around my neck.
Yeah, he touches his cross, too, almost as equally absent-mindedly.
We are in need of a doctor. I see no problem taking you on. Loyalty, not to me. If you cannot find loyalty to me, then at the very least to our fellow men who are going into this inhospitable terrain is a must. I will not broker treachery. I do not care if Jesus himself comes back and tells you to betray the men under my care. We will go into the desert, and we will come out, and we will do so only because we work together. After that, you can have your God strike me down if need be. But while we are in the empty quarter, loyalty is utmost. Can you do that, Mr. Salah?
Well, all will be as God wills it. But I agree to this.
Then I see no problems. I'll have to speak to my employer.
Well, let me help your man then, if we are agreed.
Shake on it, huh?
Yeah, he'll shake. So he goes over to look at Matt Vey. He looks at his eyes and stuff, and he relays that this man is in a coma, and certain pressures will have to be relieved.
Is he going to get tray-panned and I'm...
Yes.
Damn it.
I could do a 2-for-1 if you'd like.
And what exactly will that entail, Mr. Salah?
Well, I'm going to drill several small holes through his skull.
Lucky bastard.
And this way we can relieve the pressure. I will say with 90% certainty that he will recover fully.
Within what amount of time will he be up and at it?
He should, as soon as he wakes, given about a day, he should be back to his normal self. Of course, light duty for the next few days might be wise.
Damn lazy Russians. Very well. Seeing as he cannot say yea or nay to this procedure, I'll use my authority and okay it. Start drilling, Mr. Salah. And if it comes at some point between possibly damaging any of his eyes or motor functions, stop drilling. He's the only sniper I have, and I already have several plans for how he'll work with us. Otherwise, he's useless, and I'll dump him in the damn Mediterranean.
So he goes over to a basin and begins to wash up. And, well, first he sets out he's got like a leather satchel that unfolds that has a bunch of, wicked-looking instruments in it, but really they're part of the time appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he washes up pretty good, and he's like, you may not want to be present for this, Mr. Stanton. How are you with gross injury? So do you want to stay to see it, or you can just go outside the room? Or whatever?
Yeah, I'll say that I was part of the march for Lake, was it Tanganyika or Yiyaka? I'm sorry, but it was essentially a death march. I've seen my fair share. Start drilling,
okay,
Mr. Sala.
So yeah, he does so, and it's actually not that gruesome, aside from maybe the sound a little bit, but that's only for a brief time.
Does he put the coins over the holes like they would in the old days, or does he use something else? Just sew it up? Yeah,
basically he does put something that he has sterilized prior that was in his kit over it that is about coin-shaped, and then he wraps the head up once it's all done. But he's kind of talking while he's doing it, and he says, I knew a doctor who did this to himself, and he described hearing a bubbling sound once he punctured the skull. I wonder if your young Russian friend here is hearing that now.
Well, hopefully, if he makes a speedy recovery, you'll be able to ask him yourself, Dr. Sala. But if I'm to be honest, I don't think there's much in the way in that skull, so...
Right. Yes. Russian skull's thick.
Not thick enough, because an Irishman put him on his back. Lost me a good amount of capital as well.
Here's how I expect it will go. He will be in this coma for a while longer, and if the pressure is properly relieved, which I expect it will be, he will be in a vegetative state for a while after that, and that's when we'll know for sure if any permanent damage has been done. But I will let you know in an hour or so if I see signs of the vegetative state. If he comes through all those phases quickly, to a confused one after, and then to his normal self within 24 hours, I would say he will make a full recovery.
Excellent, Dr. Sala. Well, what time is it? I'll check my pocket watch.
Yeah, it's kind of like mid-afternoon.
Well, I've been working most of the day, and I must now take my lunch. Are you going to have to watch over him like a hawk?
Yes, I will.
Is there anything I could send your way?
That won't be necessary.
All right, Dr. Sala. Ibrahim! Oh.
One more problem dealt with. On to the next one.
I will think about just pulling out my gun and shoot.
Dream people, yeah.
Unfortunately, my skill's so low that even putting the barrel to the Russian's head would result in the failure.
Yeah, there is a point during the operation, once he had it bandaged, where he does sort of stop abruptly and do a prayer very similar to a Muslim prayer. Mm-hmm. Not in how they do it, but where they bow to in a certain direction. In his case, as a Coptic Christian, he bows to the east, whereas the Muslims would bow towards the direction of Mecca, right? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. So there's a slight difference, but he does it twice during the course of the whole operation, once after the bandages are done, and then again after a brief, chat with you about what he can expect. He's going over all the things that will be good signs and what will be bad signs, and then he does his prayer again. And you can't help but notice that the east, from where you are in Cairo, is where you are going on your expedition. So Another little bit of synchronous stuff matching up there, So we got that done. Anything you want to do with that day, Mr. Stanton?
Are we on the last day before the arrival of...
You're hopeful.
Hopeful? So hopefully we'll be leaving a short time after that, like the day after at most. So I'll go over my current luggage and begin parsing that down and do a cleaning of my weapons and get those ready for bear.
Yeah, the day you're hoping that they arrive, it would be late in the evening, so basically you have another night when they get here. But we'll see. So we'll jump to the next day, Monday, February 20th, where Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth are leaving the or the Tourist Express, and all your luggage and stuff has been loaded into trucks. So this motor coach you're going to take will take you about 11 hours to get back to where you can be on a train. So it goes on these roads in between Tripoli on the Mediterranean and Haifa, a city in Mandatory Palestine, as it's called at the time. So let's get a group luck roll from Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth. So the lowest luck from the two of you. Can
Mine's
you roll yet?
44. What's yours? Oh, he BRB'd.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
matter. He can. He's probably around 70
I think
something.
he's higher than you, yeah. So we'll give it to you. Oh.
Look at this joke of a game. I'm just testing to see if it's fair, and it's not.
Should have gotten nearly 2 of those. Should have been successes.
Yeah.
I think John hacks the servers and
Yeah, he hacked
fixes
the game.
his and yours.
Mhm.
Some sort of random time dilation that is affecting luck or something.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so you guys are in these trucks. Well, you're in a car, and then like your luggage, all the stuff that the oil men need, and are in a truck at kind of the tail of the convoy, as it were. And you're traveling through this countryside along the Mediterranean, and you can see, like orchards in the distance. But other than that, it's a pretty dry and arid bit of terrain you're traveling through. But the roads are kept pretty well by the French here and this part that you're traveling through. So it's you and Mr. Thompson in the back seat, and Thaddeus Grunwald is up front, like chatting away. And he has a sort of obsession with fruit because he has another collection of fruit sitting in his lap that he's chewing on.
Was that his toad idol? That is that?
Perhaps. But yeah, he's in the middle of talking. Like he's trying to, he has made the mistake of thinking he's captured your attention by discussing locusts, unless you actually might be interested in that sort of thing. Yeah. So he's going on at length about them and why the Arabian Peninsula will be a good place to study, like how they behave, because they have these rainy seasons in the highlands where things get pretty green, but then disappears. So you see these vast populations that just start swarming everywhere. A lot of times they'll swarm over the Red Sea into Africa and whatnot. But he's going on and on and on about it and what kinds of new things he'll discover. And it's a shame he won't publish them because it would make him famous in the locust migratory community.
Well, he's allowed to publish about the locust.
Right.
population,
But, like he's trying to get more and more, like he's always sort of testing at the edge of that here.
Yeah. Highwayman.
But he's in mid-discussion when his head explodes.
Oh no!
Okay. All right. This just got real.
So yeah, he was saying one word, and then the
Oh,
next,
man.
his face basically turns into an exit wound, right?
Mhm.
And he slumps over, and the driver reacts instantly to the spray of blood, and you and Thompson get a bit of that mist, and you can see the window has a little hole in it off to the what would be the east for you guys, right?
Okay.
So let me set this up. Thaddeus, I thought he was going to make it all the way.
That was the journalist guy.
The biologist
Yeah,
with
the
locust.
locust. Yeah. Sorry. Man, buddy, that's too bad.
And we were driving to the next train.
Yeah, the one that would take you overnight into Cairo.
Well, Dr. Sala, it seems I don't have to prepare an extra camel. 2 extra camels, Mr. Elias. Lose a couple more.
Damn good rifle roll.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, so you guys see that map. I don't imagine Stanton will see it. Stan, we'll bring you in on this. We'll have you play Bizarro Stanton, Nigel Stedford.
Oh, the Texan?
No, or
No.
you want to play the Texan?
No.
He's the English. He was the expedition.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Okay,
right.
yeah. Why, there's absolutely no reason to harm these poor highwaymen. Why, we all know that out in the desert, Mr. Wentworth, it's absolutely devilishly hot, and people just get a little bit touched in the head.
Oh, you're so big.
I'm a mountain of a man, positively so.
And you were up in the first car,
Okay.
which also came under attack, but you just hear the impact of the rounds on the side of the vehicle, or something that doesn't pierce through to the cabin.
Oh, that's right. You gave him a super long pistol.
He actually has a scope on that too.
Excellent. I always picture it more like one of those Ruger Red Hawk or Black Hawk type, but no.
Okay, so you guys are reacting to all this. They get to take another shot here before you can start moving. So let's see here. But you just hear the shots coming in, but they're not. Nobody's head's exploding this time. Okay. You see a driver in the lead car that Stedford was in. Like, he parks the car and he gets out and he's got a cut on his arm from some fragment that came off around passing through like the dash in front of him. Something came off and cut him, and he's kind of ducking down and holding it, getting behind the car. So let's move over to Mr. Wentworth, who comes up next. They're coming from the east, but you can't pinpoint figures up there yet.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I want to get to cover in a spot where I can get a good view of the direction they're coming from. Okay,
cover's easy enough. Like, you have to kind of shoo Mr. Thompson out the side away from where the fire is, and you get out there. And you can get around the car or a rock on the edge of the road and try to spot these guys. If you can pass a hard spot hidden, you can maybe get the location of them. But right now you would know the fire's coming from like out there.
Failure on the spot hidden.
Yeah, you just can't make them out.
Okay.
It'll be a little easier when you see them fire again.
Yeah, I'll wait until I see them open fire again.
Okay, Nigel, so your driver just hopped out of the car. He's holding his arm. Some cut, it's bleeding pretty good, but you're still sitting in the back, and you've heard the pops from a distant rifle going off, or rifles,
Yeah, I'm going to...
Role-playing notes, the only thing I envisioned was him, standing and holding that long-barreled one like a Ponce, right? A hand on the hip, like kind of looking down the scope, right?
All right, so I will not attempt to take cover, apparently.
I mean, you could play him how you would. He still has a sense of preservation,
but...
So
what I was going to do is, first off, I would probably yell at the driver to, they're coming from the right side of the road, or wherever, the east. So, out on the west.
Right.
And I will take cover behind the engine block of the car, and I'll pull out that pistol, and I'll lean across
and try to...
and start trying to scope out something.
You can do a hard spot hidden as well.
But I have a scope.
Yeah, it's just the way the difficulty's set against their...
I don't think he has it.
Stealth. Oh, yeah, here. He just has it at the base, but I'll add it real quick.
What is it? What is base? 25?
Yeah, it should be on there now.
Oh, okay. Nope, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, 64 versus 25.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just don't see them yet. They're probably wearing something that just helps them blend in at that distance. I mean, the scope will give you a bonus die, we'll say. Go ahead and roll that up.
What direction is the sun coming from? That could be something I could wait for, too.
It's overhead at the moment.
24, that's a success.
Okay. So, yeah, you see a figure, wearing, like, dusty clothes. They're not really, like, camouflage, but you see him through the scope.
All right. Yeah, I'll cock the hammer.
You got a beat on him this round? All right. Joseph Thompson. Mr. Wentworth has kind of pushed you out of the car in order to get past you. What do you want to do with your turn?
What exactly has happened? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're being fired upon.
Do we know the direction? And what do we have with us?
It's you and Mr. Thompson and the driver of the car. Thaddeus Grunwald was in there, but he just got killed.
What equipment do we have with us?
Well, your rifles are likely in with the cargo, but if you carry, like your pistol, you would have that. Your cargo would be the back vehicle if you look on the map.
Okay. And I'm still in the car?
No, you were pushed out.
So
perfect. Mr. Wentworth could get by
I'll get up and start running for that back car.
Okay. So you'd have to
Is this all flat, or is this...
The road is, yeah. But
what about where we're at?
You're kind of in a valley.
Okay. So is it covered? Would I have cover from where those shots are coming from if I wait to get up on the road?
If your goal is to move to the rear car, you will have to break cover at some point.
Okay. Then yeah, I'll sprint for it.
Okay, give me a Constitution roll.
Extreme success. This is why I was in the forces.
You're still in good shape.
All them chasing down sales leads really kept me
Literally chasing
tip-top.
Looks like
that
the
ran away from you.
looks like the
I
Terminator
take
chasing
everything
down John
literally.
Connor.
Okay, the driver from your car, Mr. Wentworth, who was quite shocked as he took most of the brunt of Thaddeus's vacating head contents. You know, he's kind of standing there. He doesn't take that extreme shot, but he does take a 12, which, you know, nicks his neck and a vital artery there, and he claps a hand to it, and he kind of looks at you like, are you going to do something about this, Mr. Wentworth, whoever you are, right? But you can see it seeping through the fingers there, right? It didn't look like it was a full penetrating shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it did enough there to get that main artery. And then the other, one of the Standard Oil men, which was riding in the car behind you guys, you hear him cry out in pain and grip his calf, basically, right? You know, they were kind of milling around. Some of them were looking off in the wrong direction where these shots were coming from, because they do kind of echo around a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't listen for the echo, listen for the zzz.
Mr. Wentworth.
Okay. I'll just, shout at that guy to get down. But if I'm going to be any good here, I need my rifle, so I'm going to follow Joseph.
Okay, give me a
sprint.
Constitution roll.
Either push it or use that luck.
Yeah, I'll use a luck.
Okay. I forgot to give you this. The sprint wasn't the action for you, Mr. Thompson. You can give a spot hidden to see about where your rifle might be, and same with you, Mr. Wentworth, when you get there.
Okay.
Hard success. I always know where my rifle's at.
Hard success. Me too.
So does Mr. Wentworth.
Okay, Stedford, you can make a spot hidden when they fired, because you were looking for that with just at regular with a bonus die.
All right. Success. Bonus die.
Okay, so you get a
okay.
bead on them. You see one out there about 70 yards away.
All right. Yeah, so I'll shout out to my allies that he's what would that be? That'd be like 60-something meters
right
due west of my position.
And
or due east, sorry.
They say, how many sub sandwiches is that? From the Americans.
Yeah. And then I'll take a shot. I'll
okay.
let that hammer
we were
fall.
What's the range
in the
on
military, though, so we know
Colt there?
meters.
Where is the range? I don't know.
Let me see. Put it on there.
I'm not seeing the range on the rifle either.
I didn't do that. I could have sworn it had me fill that in when you put them in there.
70 yards.
Oh, no, it didn't.
That's not too bad for maybe the ammunition of the time. I'm not too sure on that. 14.
What rifle do you have?
Pistol. Big pistol.
Oh.
Well, it's kind of a custom one, so but you also have the scope on it. So we'll just do at a regular with one penalty for, they're in a prone position, lying down with their rifles.
Oh, 15. Single action army, so one shot around. Is that how that works in this?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless I want to fan it.
Right.
All right, so one penalty.
Yes.
Penalty, 2 dice. 65.
Okay. You see a puff of dirt about 3 meters to the left of them, so well wide of where that guy's crouched down.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know too much about him. Stanton would shout out if for anyone that was looking for like the puff of
right.
dust, how wide he was, but don't know if this guy would.
You know how to do the multi-sided tokens in this, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I have one there for your Colt that I just changed to 5 shots left, but if you can control it, I'll have you track it from this point on.
Let's see. It's been a little while. I'm not sure if I remember how.
Okay, Joseph, you and it's right click, and towards the bottom it should be multi-sided token, and then for that option you can choose a random or to select.
Okay.
And, you don't want a random appearing set of ammo after each shot.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth, you had found where your rifles were stored in the back of that Ford Model T pickup that all your gear was in. and it's Thompson's turn, so you can grab it. If you want to try to fire it, it would be at penalty, but you guys haven't even really spotted where they're at yet. Although you can see Nigel Stedford down there,
Yeah, I'm
like
actually,
over the front of the Model T, right?
actually leaning.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm gonna I'll take or use the vehicle as a rest. Get the rifle out, rest on it, and then just looking over to where what direction I guess Nigel's at, and I'll either wait for the spot hidden, I guess, after they fire.
Yeah, I'll give it at a regular for you to spot this round as your action, because you can see that puff of dirt from him firing back as kind of like a marker to put the area, localize it for you.
I'll push it.
Okay.
What would the penalty be though?
Ooh, we're getting close to like malfunctions, right?
Right. Well, he's not firing. It's the penalty for spotting.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I would say you would just mistake, something else or have the wrong conclusion of where they're at.
Yeah, you'd like focus on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, it's shooting at you. Might even cause him to shift cover.
Yeah. So you see, some movement off there to the east that you think that they're at, and that puts the spot where you're setting up as a bad location to have cover from them. So you need to relocate to get out of the line of fire here.
As this turn or next turn?
Now.
Okay.
Because right now, as far as you're concerned, you're standing in the open, or they'd have a direct line of sight to you.
So I'll go towards the front of the vehicle, like that front corner that would...
Like that?
Is that the front?
Yeah.
I thought it was the other way. Yeah, like that. That works.
Okay.
And then I'll lay down on the road instead of posting up over that vehicle.
Right. Let's see how they do this time.
Man, watch them get all cooked. I've watched some of those, like, people getting arrested in, like, Arizona or Vegas where the cops making them lay down on blacktop.
Right.
Oh, man.
Well, luckily you guys are at a very nice 75 degrees right now, so
Yeah.
you're not baking too much. Okay, you hear more fire adding to the confusion, but in this case, everybody who wasn't smart enough to get into cover has been called to do so by people around them, or they were shot and then called to do so by people around them. So now everybody's crouched down and there's a bit of a stalemate, but everybody give me a listen roll.
Is his base as well?
Mm-hmm.
So is that 25?
Yeah.
All right. 100. 22. So
All right.
I can't put checks, so...
Right.
Does he not get it because he's NPC?
No, they do. I still kind of keep track of it. So Stedford...
Oh, no. This is a 51. Sorry.
Oh,
I
you
did
got
see
it
it.
good.
Yeah.
So you hear the sound of an approaching motor to the north coming down that road.
All right. Yeah. Do I gotta wait for my turn? Or?
That's the start of the round, but it's Wentworth next. But you're the only one who's aware of that right now. Makes sense since you're at the front of the convoy there. But from your experience dealing with tribal people, though there's nothing to say that these are tribal people. But any kind of attack like this, draw their attention one way, hit them from another, is pretty common in your experience. So you would be
Rope-a-dope.
very suspicious of the incoming car, especially since you haven't passed much traffic on this road.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a French soldier that was driving the truck, and he's just cowering there at the moment next to you, Mr. Wentworth, but it is your turn.
Well, yeah, so I got to grab my rifle and then see if I
Yeah.
can find a target to shoot at.
Yeah, so you if you make a regular success, then you can spot him this time.
Success.
There you go. Is that enough for a hard? No. Okay. So you see the same one that Nigel Stedford do. You're scanning across the top of that hill, and you see that dust that's floating away from where his round impacted near him.
Yeah.
And that helps you like zero in right on the guy laying down, and through, I think I don't know if you have a scope or
I
not.
do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see it. This is like a young man, maybe even a kid, right? Just wearing not quite rags, but regular clothes that are the color of dust because
They're just dirty.
they're dirty. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have it's got a head wrap that he's sitting there looking down his sights. So what do you want to do?
What would Charles Stanton do?
Well, I'll shoot him.
Okay. All right, I think that's well within the base range of your 30-06, right?
Yeah, 110 yards.
Yeah, the only thing you have is a penalty for him being prone. Did you go prone?
I don't know. Whatever would give me the best cover.
Yeah. I think because
I'm at the back of this truck digging my gun out. So.
Oh, give me an intelligence roll.
Failure.
All right, you don't have the presence of mind to know that Thompson, for whatever reason, jumped down from the truck, and he's right in their line of fire, that one you see, He's not covering himself appropriately.
Maybe
you don't have the presence of mind to see that, right?
Okay.
You just see a shape, you knew Thompson was in there grabbing his rifle, and he hops down and he moves around to the truck, and it's kind of, you're distantly aware
something's off.
Yeah, that's not the best place for him to be. But yeah, you can take a fire shot with a penalty.
Failure.
I'm going to roll that penalty as well.
Because it could always be worse.
I don't think it will be. Never mind. Because the worst you could get is 95, which doesn't bring you into fumble or malfunction territory.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, so you're a little bit closer to hitting him than Nigel was, but it might as well have been a million miles away because he's still sitting there. Okay, Nigel Stedford.
I'm trying to think of unfortunately, I think it's Stanton's voice, but I was trying to think of a revolver ocelot, but British. I think it just ends up being Stanton, but I'll call out to, I almost called you Bigglesworth, Wentworth, that I hear engines approaching from the north, and then I'll take another shot.
When he says that, I think it's...
What are Indians doing here?
Yeah. Like, what?
No. Then he gives you a few British words for a car, and you're like, well, what are those? What do they call them? I can't remember.
A lorry? Or
a lorry.
Wheelie-goey, or I don't know. Who knows something.
A roundy round. You stupid American. You're going for another shot?
Yeah, after I yell out.
Yeah, so again, you're not hitting them. It's a hard target to get the angles right on the shot.
After that, I understand that he'll still get a shot at me, but I'm going to duck down and start facing towards the north and preparing for that.
Yeah. So yeah, by the end of your turn, you see that car coming down the road up there. All right, Mr. Thompson.
Could I do another spot hidden based off of where those two are still firing at?
Yeah.
It's a hard success.
Okay, so you realize your error, whatever you saw before, you don't know if that's anything necessarily, but you see that you were standing right out in the open, basically, from the perspective of the one assailant that Nigel and Mr. Wentworth have been firing at, because they've kicked up some dust around them, so it's kind of obvious that you're not in a good location.
Does he also hear me shouting for vehicle coming northbound?
Yeah, give me an int roll. We'll see if you pick up on it.
Right.
Combat or awareness. Yeah, I mean, your immediate concern is just standing in the open. There's people hollering all over the place, and then you have this Mr. Stedford talking about wheelie wheels coming down the black and
wheelie
longs.
wheels and engines. All right, so realizing my error, I guess, how close am I to that next vehicle in front of me now?
You can make it from vehicle to vehicle without sprinting.
Okay,
as long
so
as it's from
I'll
one
go
vehicle
and
to the next.
Yeah, I'll post myself up at that vehicle, and am I able to get a shot off at that guy?
Yeah, you can do it without penalty even too. It's a small enough movement. The only penalty, you have one penalty for your target being prone, and that's it.
Okay.
Nice.
Penalty.
Oh yeah, penalty. Luck? Can you luck on a penalty?
Yeah, can I use? Yeah, I'll use the 7 luck that I need then.
All right, so do you have a scope on yours too?
Yes.
What's the damage on 11?
It's a 2d8 plus 2, so 11 is what I got out of that.
You get like the midway point between an elephant gun and like a 30-06.
Yeah,
type rifle.
It's that 404 Jeffrey rifle. Never know when you're gonna need it, but you're glad when you got it.
Yeah, so
It's a respectable round, I'd say.
you can see through the scope that you connected. Didn't kill him outright. You see him abandon his rifle there and weakly crawl backwards out of your point of view, basically.
Is this where we get to recreate The Unforgiven? Give him some water.
As I'll call back to Bartholomew. Yeah, he's hit, but I don't think he's dead.
Yeah, next to you at that car was Dr. Francis Morgan, and he's crouched there with a 45, which, he probably wouldn't be able to. He'd have to be a very skilled shot, I would think, in this circumstances to make something. But he's asking you, like, I know they're over there, but, where? What do you need me to do, Mr. Thompson?
Well, I only know of one. Have you heard of another? Have you heard another shooting or seen another?
It sounds like there's more than one to me.
I was saying, if you've got a direction, you can always try and lay down covering, even if you're not going to hit him, as it might keep their heads down for a small amount of time.
Okay.
You pretty much just shoot in the direction of.
I'm on it. And he does. He holds his gun over the front of the car that he was in and fires off a few rounds.
Aim a little bit high, buddy.
Right. Meanwhile, this car moves a little bit down there, and it starts to turn sort of like to block the road, like to angle to such a degree that the roads or the car's diagonal on the road. And that'll bring us back around to you, Mr. Wentworth.
I will consider that an act of aggression.
All right, so what do I see from where I am?
Okay, so at this point, the car coming to the north is obvious. And since Mr. Thompson called out that he got him, but he doesn't think he killed him, you don't really see any movement now. You see the rifle that he was using is still sitting there propped up on a rock at the top of that hill, but you don't see the person who was manning it anymore.
Okay.
And you hear this motor approaching because now it's become obvious.
Yeah. So I need to get in position to aim towards that car in case they're not friendlies, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do.
Do you want to move up, or you'll get like a partially blocked view back from where you are, but
Yeah, I'll move up so I can get a full view of it.
up to the top of the car?
Yeah.
Or the top car, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me a constitution roll.
Hard success.
Very nice. You're in tip-top condition.
Mm-hmm.
Age hasn't slowed you down one bit. Okay, so yeah, you run up there next to Nigel, who's looking at this car, and you can see what you think are three figures in the cab. What do you want to do?
Does it look like they are armed or getting out?
Yeah, like you see one door open at this point. If you passed a hard spot hidden again, you could probably make out whether they're packing or not, but just at a casual glance, you don't see it.
All right. I'm planning on probably shooting anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll give you that spot hidden just in case. No. All right. So, doors opening. I'll try to put a round into the guy stepping out of that door.
Okay.
And, may God forgive me.
I kind of imagine that Nigel would always come to the same bloodthirsty conclusion. He would just be nicer when he did it. But, all right. Yeah. Go ahead and take your shot. They're just a little covered is also one penalty.
All right. Well, there we go. Penalty, 2 dice. Aha!
Nice.
11 damage.
That's enough. So you see that guy step out of the driver's side. He was the first one to come out, and he was just standing up out of the car, and you take him like through the glass, or where do you want to hit him, I should say, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Does he have a gun on him?
Yeah, it resolved. Okay. It's like a split second that you're seeing through your scope. You see it come out, but you had already committed to pulling the trigger, basically. So God made it right in the end.
Yeah, I'll shout out. Oh man, they're wait a sec. Does he know Arabic?
Yes,
he does. I'll shout out in Arabic that if they value their lives, they will remain seated or better yet, to drive off.
Right.
While I'm doing that, I'll cock the hammer one more time so that way I can shoot on the next round. I don't really think I need to track that though, right? So that's more for effect.
Right, yeah. Mr. Thompson, if you give me a spot hidden.
I like to think
use a couple luck.
Don't you bloody move. I'll kill every last one of you.
All right, so you see a figure for a moment fleeing further east. Like they stood up from their location, went into a divot in the land, and then came up, another crest. So anyhow, you see a guy, like disappear in a little divot and then crest a slightly higher hill further on and then start to disappear again. So somebody else that was up there shooting seems to be running off.
Take a shot if I got one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, fast-moving target, so same penalty.
So
perfectly
hard
silhouetted.
Right.
So it cancels out the additional penalty.
Right. Okay. Did you do the penalty on there as well?
Still a hit.
Still hit.
Okay. Constitution roll. Yeah, you're pretty sure you got him.
Nice little bit of misting.
Yeah. And he drops, out of sight.
At this distance, it isn't even red, probably, because of the way the light works.
Okay, Mr. Wentworth, you had heard Nigel Stedford calling out in Arabic, which you speak to, so a warning to either, stop or leave.
Very
right?
cordially.
They seem to have chosen to leave. The guy that was in the passenger seat slides over to take the wheel, and he's trying to reverse to get turned around, but it's a process, so you have a lot of time where you got to beat on him. What do you want to do with that?
Take the one in the back.
If it was me,
Well,
Mr. Wentworth,
I'm going
I
to tell
would've
him
stopped.
I'm going to tell him to stop and surrender. I need to find out who these people are.
Okay.
I'll have a beat on him and I'll tell him to stop and get out of the truck with your hands up in Arabic.
Okay. All right. Let's just have your Arabic roll. We'll see if there's some small detail in how the language is spoken that trips up your threat. Probably just looking for a fumble, though. So
failure.
So you get it. The guy who was driving stops and he gets out with his hands up.
Put your hands up your butt.
But the one in the rear seat opens his door and starts booking it off towards that orchard there.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
I'll stay focused on the dude who was driving.
So, Nigel, it becomes apparent to you that you're not hearing gunshots anymore after the last few that went off. What do you want to do?
Well, I think I'll still take a aim at that one that's fleeing away.
Okay.
But I think I'll just track him.
All right. Well, he seems committed to fleeing.
Because I heard Wentworth
Yeah.
shout out that he wants to surrender, so I don't want to hamper that. This isn't D&D where
Right.
someone calls for
Kill
surrender
everything.
and you just keep killing.
You got to have that XP going up.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So, yeah, that one flees off into that orchard, and he kind of disappears out of sight.
Do I get
eventually.
a chance to try and take him in the leg?
If you want to. Joseph
Sure.
Thompson. I'm a closer, he says.
He's lucky.
See, you were close to being lucky there.
So, are we still in combat or are we exiting?
I mean, we can always be in combat. It's just, nobody's shooting right now. Right?
That's how Charles Stanton thinks. I like that. We can always be in combat.
It's easy to slip in and out of the round system, but you guys can move a little freely, right?
Yeah, so I'll switch my angle back to this driver and I'll stand up and I guess look towards Wentworth. Do you want do you want me or you to go up?
No, I'll do it.
All right, I'll cover you then.
Okay.
Yeah, this other one, the one that decided to stay, looks to be a teenager, and he's very distraught, but he's walking towards you with, his hands up, and he's just babbling, don't shoot me,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Arabic.
All right. Yeah. So what I want to do is, drag him over to the front vehicle
Okay.
so that we've got some cover in case there's more people to the east. But that's where I'll search him and start the interrogation, find out why we were attacked and why I'll say my friend, even though he was just really an acquaintance.
Right.
Had to have his head removed.
He doesn't know, what you're talking about with the head removed thing.
Oh, I show him.
Right.
I'll drag him
Take a
over.
look at it.
You see that?
Yeah. So he babbles out a story about how his uncle knew that this convoy, they come through here all the time, and they thought it would be easy pickings is the gist that you get, right?
Oh, okay.
And he was kind of drug along to be another person under a warm body to it, is what he's telling you. You can give me a psychology roll if you'd like. Same with Nigel.
Success.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have it. What is it, like a 10 or something?
I think it starts at 10, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not even going to bother.
I mean, you got in trouble one time as a kid for, methodically breaking all of the glass around your house while your parents were gone.
Yeah.
And his trouble's a little bit worse than that, but the reaction is very genuine as far as you're concerned. These are, to them, This is just a French-owned part of the convoy,
Right.
and there was an opportunity to get something. They didn't.
I've dealt with a lot of Mexican bandits just like this.
The classic, we didn't. We just wanted the stuff. We
Yeah.
didn't mean to hurt anybody, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't keep his eyes off of the corpse of Thaddeus Grunwald,
Yeah.
where he slumped over there in the front of that car. Mr. Bo Whiteman comes up and he's like, "You just put a bullet in that kid's head and let's get on with this."
Yeah. Well, how old is he?
Like 15, you would say.
If you would permit me, and I'll switch over to Arabic, how many are you?
He says there were 3 in the car and 2 up on the hill.
Put a bullet in him. It's quite a service. He'd probably just starve to death or try to think too hard and pop a blood vessel.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, he's taken shots at us and killed one of ours. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'll do. There's like an orchard nearby.
Yeah.
His friend round off that way. Do you want a bit of backup?
Yeah, well, I'll just take him over there and we'll put him down.
Put one in his head.
Yeah.
The voice of dissent lost his mind quite literally, so he won't be there to say anything.
Yeah, right.
Does John have any objections? John's
Yeah.
character?
Mr. Thompson?
That cold, the killer's stare.
Well,
He
I'm
might
sorry,
fight us
what was
for
going on?
We're going to execute the not hostage, the prisoner.
The one we captured, we're just going to execute him.
I'll keep watching the desert.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably some dying...
Yeah, as I know there's at
people
least
up
one
there at
out
the hill.
there. I'm just going to keep watch to make sure that we're not they're not continuing to try and shoot at us from the east here. As I figure they've got the situation to the north handled.
He could have been lying, Mr. Thompson, but he said 3 in the car and 2 out in the desert, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's that
Yeah, I'm
first
just-
one it didn't quite kill, so
Well, so there's
again,
nothing...
your business there is yours. I'll keep a watch out to the east.
Yeah, there's like... I mean, now that we know it's just simple banditry, there's no reason to even go look for the...
Right.
We just
Yeah.
need to get back on the road, so...
I mean, you catch a look of disbelief from the 2 people that work for the train company, the drivers of your car, the wounded one and the one that made it okay. The soldier has probably done that a few times himself. He's just happens to be a coward in this case. Nobody really to back him up. But
Do I know enough of this part of the world to... We hand him over to the French, they'd probably execute him, right?
yeah, I mean, the reality of
Um,
these sorts of things is those soldiers are going to handle things in an expedient way. So that's just the reality.
I mean,
just
taking him and turning him into any law is pointless here.
Yeah.
The French soldier who cowered would be the authority in this matter, but he's like a private or something by the look at him, So he's just, looking angrily at the kid too, He's in on the idea. The only one you would think that would give you pause by the look on his face is Dr. Francis Morgan, but his expression is more like, I don't like this, but,
Yeah.
the world is as it is.
It's a simple matter of fact. Either we let him go and he rejoins in some other form of brigandry,
Right.
we give him to the French, they'll execute him, or we just get rid of it now and save the world a spot of trouble.
I agree with that guy. I don't see any reason to labor the point.
Right.
I'll be reloading while I'm talking this.
Yeah,
Sliding one of the spent brass under my nose.
but I know enough that, even if people aren't disagreeing,
Yeah.
it's still...
Might cause dissent.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to want to watch it.
I mean,
so,
do you just want me to do it?
Aren't you going out to check on your sniper, or are you?
No, I was keeping watch
let
in
'em
that
die of their
location, just
wounds?
through my scope. Yeah, with that shot, he'll either die soon, or it's just to make sure he's not trying to pop up and make one last shot or something.
Is there any, I don't know, like last respect? Like, does he want to face Mecca or something? I don't know what they do if they know they're about to check out.
Give him a moment to pray,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, he'll take
suggest,
it.
I'll suggest it to you in
Yeah.
English. Perhaps a moment for him to pray. To
Couldn't
Allah.
hurt.
And I'll, in Arabic, pray to Allah, make it right.
So who's the trigger puller?
Well, I'll do it.
Okay.
I
So
got my pistol.
Yeah, I'm keeping a watch out in case his friend decides to circle back.
Yeah, so we will close on the scene of Mr. Wentworth, putting the barrel of his gun to the back of this boy's head as he gives his final prayer, and then the cut shot to the trees in the orchard and the birds flying away with the the sound of the bullet going off. Yeah, and thanks for playing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead and go for those luck increase rolls.
Just a sec. I got to reload.
Oh, man. Yeah, we might want to try collectively switching over to Firefox or something. This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.